Have you guys heard of the Enable hand? Basically a special effects guy and a guy missing a couple of fingers because of a carpentry accident got together and started working on a design for a hand that would work. If you flex your wrist, it would like close the fingers, right? Well, it's turned into this huge movement now where lots of people with 3D printers just create hands for kids who need hands. That's the kind of thing that I like to see. That something that was incredibly expensive is now much, much easier to actually locate and work out for people.
Maker. Noun. A person or thing that makes or produces something.
Make. A word we probably use hundreds of times a day. But recently, this word has taken on new meaning. People all over the world are now self-proclaimed makers, otherwise known as inventors, entrepreneurs, and engineers. With 3D printing and cheap manufacturing, an entire movement of creators has taken shape. We decided to take advantage of the Bay Area, home to the nation's most inventive people, by reaching out to some local makers.
So, even when I was a little kid, I would take my dolls apart, and I would take my cars apart and all this other stuff, and see how they work and try to put them back together. I learned how to sew, I learned how to cook, and then I learned how to program, which was the ultimate, because you could make things work on computers, and so that was really cool. This is a prototype for a large battleship game. You can see this is a very early stage kind of thing. But what we're able to learn from something like this is, where should we put lights in these buttons? And there's sort of this inherent curiosity that scientists or inventors really have.
One night I was just kind of bored at home and I wondered how socks were made. And I was just learning how to do 3D modeling at the time, so I go, maybe I can model that, right? So a couple hours later, I had modeled this really complex machine, and it was pretty amazing to me that I was able to take the idea of something and then turn it into at least the full model.
Like I was saying, this project I'm working on, the Engineer Accelerator, which is this professional training program for new engineers. That is me making, it's not just for other people, it's something that's sort of seeing that as an opportunity and sort of extending out the idea of making into this sort of thing. So sort of beyond just sort of making something physical, Being a maker is my life.
After finding out about the maker movement, we decided to check out a couple makerspaces in the Bay Area. We learned that makerspaces are places where makers go to create, and each space we visited was unique and had a vibrant personality.
Since we've opened, we've seen the number of spaces skyrocket, especially in the United States, but also around the world.
I wanted to be able to have a space where I could, hack on stuff, and my house isn't quite set up for it. So I started hearing about co-working spaces and hacker spaces, and I decided that instead of doing something in my house, I would create a space.
The space we're in right now is Rocket Collabs. It's a co-working space. It has this electrical engineering lab is one of the big reasons why I'm here, actually.
There are 3D printers, there are laser cutters that are affordable now. You can go online and mail order things almost next day to get fabricated CNC milled out of a block of aluminum or a block of wood.
The spreading out of the means of production in some way, the potential is that you could have a factory in your garage.
I was like, okay, I want to build something, but what do I build? So I was looking, I looked at my backpack and I was like, oh, it's a clip, maybe I should build that.
One of the awesome things about having a hackerspace is that it's not just your garage, it's not just you working there. You come here and you want to work on your own project, but there are other people working on awesome projects, and you start having conversations. People come by and ask you what you're doing, and you're like, oh, I'm doing this thing. Oh, that's really, really cool.
Members who didn't know each other before are suddenly working on a project together, and I think that's just a sign of the collaboration that goes on.
The entire nature of the fact that we're starting in these spaces where there's lots of people around who are doing similar things makes it a little bit more collaborative.
So what's the future of the maker movement? With makerspaces and makers popping up everywhere, from Silicon Valley to Shanghai, we wanted to know what will come out of all of this.
The benefit for having lots of makers is it's empowering. You don't have to wait for anybody else to solve your problem for you, you know.
I think consumerism is like, you must buy the things that make you who you are. Like, I'm gonna buy this shirt because it makes me look cool and I associate with this counterculture or whatever that it is. In the maker movement, you just create whatever the hell you want. You are the designer. You wanna put these factories all around the world and make it so anyone on earth can produce things they want and solve any problem they want.